The people of the book. You may have heard this expression before regarding the Jewish people. It's because many Jewish people have a deep love and reverence for the Hebrew scriptures, the book of Torah. But actually, it's somewhat of a misnomer when it comes to the Jewish people, because the Jewish faith for millennium, for generations, was passed down from one generation to the other verbally. It's an oral tradition. In fact, the Jewish faith is one of many, many oral traditions that impact our culture and many other cultures. Tonight, we're going to look at one type of oral tradition, oral history. So first of all, what is oral history? Well, it's a way to get at historical events through the lens of individual experiences, through interviews. It's a way to capture what happened with people's memories and perceptions of what transgressed in the past. But why do we care? Well, often the official historical narrative leaves out critical voices and perspectives. Many times, marginalized, disenfranchised voices are left out of the narrative, and so it gives us an incomplete picture of history. 10 years ago, no, actually 13 years ago, almost to the day, Frank Gavin, an historian, came to the Long Now and shared his vision, his perspective of history, which is that horizontal history, many factors come into play to affect the historical narrative. Well, I would posit that oral history is the human lens. It's the overlay among all these variables to give meaning and explanation to what happens in the history. It's sort of like an accounting statement with footnotes. They make it make sense. Steven Spielberg totally understood the power of oral history when he was making Schindler's List. He realized that there were so many human stories that needed to be told, not only to complete the picture of the Holocaust, but to help us connect with it as humans. And he knew that was important, so he partnered with USC to start the Shoah Foundation. They collect thousands of Holocaust survivor stories so that not only do we know more about the Holocaust, but we understand on a human level what it meant, and we learn from it. Isabel Wilkerson uses oral history significantly in her study of the Great Migration. She interviewed over 1,200 people and did a deep dive, interviewing intensely 3 of these people. Between 1915 and 1970, over 6 million African Americans left the South to other parts of the US to get better economic opportunity, but especially to escape the racial regime of Jim Crow. So, some of the folks that she focused on included Ida Mae Brandon Gladney. She was living in Mississippi with her husband when her husband's cousin was nearly killed for stealing some turkeys. So pregnant with 2 small children, her and her husband left for Chicago to find opportunity. Instead, they found a glutted labor market, and they were competing not only with other migrants, but with immigrants. They became the bottom of the pecking order again. It was not pretty. George Foster Starling is another person that Isabel Wilkerson spoke with. He was born in Florida and college educated, and soon learned and understood that they were being exploited in the fields, and so he organized his co-laborers to demand more money. He was nearly killed. So he went to New York City. There, he didn't see white signs or colored signs, and he could go to a bar and get served, but the bartender would make it very clear that he wasn't welcome by smashing the glass loudly upon his departure. And finally, Dr. Robert Joseph Pershing Foster was an accomplished physician and surgeon in World War II, but when he returned to Monroe, Louisiana, he learned that he couldn't even do a simple tonsillectomy. So he went to Los Angeles so he could practice medicine. But sadly, even the journey there began to reveal the kind of obstruction and resistance he would face. Driving up to a hotel and a vacancy sign becomes a no vacancy sign. The subtle rejection and exclusion continued. All these stories tell us that the Great Migration, while leading to economic opportunity, also didn't close the limitations and the oppression that many Black people faced. And because these are human stories, we can relate to them on a personal level and reflect. So I would ask you, who in your backyard has lived through an historical event, small or large? What are their perceptions, their memories? What did they experience, and what can they add to the historical narrative? Get curious and do some research, and then turn on your phone and ask them some questions and capture it. And if they agree, Share it with others so that others not only have a fuller picture of history, but they connect with it as humans. Thank you.